Good afternoon, Billy.
Hey, Reba.
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Hey, I am so glad that you invited me to your school. It's just been a real pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to this coaching conversation
Thank you.
this afternoon.
I'm looking forward myself. It's good to get this together.
Okay,
good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, you indicated in your email that you do have a topic that you want us to
I
coach
did,
around.
yes, ma'am. How do I, if I'm beginning a lesson or we're teaching a lesson, we're doing something for the kids, I have a hard time without leaving the slow one behind or a couple that aren't getting it, and still engaging that advanced learner, or I'm either one or the other. I'm pacing with the leader and leaving the rest behind, or I'm remembering people in the back of the pack and I've got the whole front of the pack just wandering around, in the lesson, just because, well, we're already past that. Why do you keep asking the same question over and over? I may have a dynamic lesson and I may lose some in the back, or I may say, I'm staying with this one and then I lose. So probably something with the lessons,
Okay.
probably something where we could incorporate all levels of learners and still challenge some without leaving some behind, and still be at the level that they don't just, well, I've met frustration level, I'm done learning. I'm putting my head down and I quit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
something that's like
Okay.
that. Sure.
Sounds like differentiation. Is that what
Okay.
you call it?
In some ways, okay. Yeah, and it,
How is it different? Help me
different
understand.
for the students, right? Well, it's different if I say, let's work this division problem. Okay. And then one says, well, I don't know division. One says, yeah, okay, come on, hurry up, let's do it. Okay, so we do it. As we're doing it, we do one digit into the other, and we keep working it. And there's a one or a couple students who are, oh, the answers are 14 or 138. They are already at it. Well, the other one says, well, he still hadn't got his paper out, or he says, well, I'm not good at division. You already know that. I can't do division, or I don't understand this. Or you ask a question, and there's the one, well, I don't know. Okay, well, let's get to that I don't know, and we address that. Well, we've got three others who do know, but this one doesn't know, and I'm trying to address that or help that I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess it's, what to do in the meantime, or how to address the I don't know without forsaking the
ones
I
that
do
know.
knows. We're just twiddling our thumbs waiting for you guys to figure it out, kind of a thing. Does that?
So right now, this is a frustration for you in the classroom.
I would say, because even if it doesn't start as a frustration with me, and I'm usually pretty easygoing, if it's not meeting expectation, how if there's this difference and you expected me to do this and I expected you, but then we're not, okay. So because of that, then I can expect, we're already 20 minutes into this lesson and we're still only on the second problem. This isn't going so well. Then sure, it could lead to a frustration, and it certainly leads to frustrations with them of, I already told you, I don't know, why do you keep, or this is a common one. Well, I'm trying to work, but you won't help me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm trying to, okay, so.
Tension in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd like to know, what can you do to remove that?
Sure.
Yeah. Billy, I know you've been thinking about this a lot. It's evident because you get excited when you talk about it. It's obvious that it's on your mind, and it's very important to you. I'm wondering what you've already thought about doing.
Okay. I thought late at night, laying in bed. I thought once about, sometimes is like if I could work one-on-one, or if there's a way I could incorporate centers or something, some way to break it down. But then again, maybe I'm just a novice with centers, so I don't have maybe the adequate, or I could even put a couple at centers and they may not be working while I'm trying to work with this one. Well, I don't know how to do, okay, so I don't know, maybe centers though, and to answer your question, maybe centers was a.
So centers is one idea.
Does that make sense?
What else?
Other than that, just to try and get that student one-on-one, or like to lessen, whatever ways, I don't know, beyond that. The idea has been to get more one-on-one. Again, I've thought after school, but usually they don't like staying after school, and sometimes new baby and mom don't like it when you stay after.
Sure.
But there's something, maybe some way to get that one-on-one, I don't know.
Yeah, and this is really about the lesson time, isn't it? It's not about after school time.
No.
It's about that
right.
time
If I
you
could
have
get
them
it during
there.
then, you're right. You're right. If I could get it during that time, would be. Then we'd get much further. I mean, you think of the stuff that you cover in a year. I mean, the objectives that you're supposed to cover and the different.
Yeah.
You know.
Billy.
Okay.
Let's play a game.
All right.
For a minute. You mentioned lying at bed at night and worrying about this.
All right.
Let's pretend that you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and miraculously this problem is solved.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anymore. Everything's operating smoothly in your classroom.
Okay.
What does it look like? What do you see students doing? What conversations do you hear? What's going on in that class?
Okay, well, they would come in and they'd probably be slow to their seats or kind of meandering or whatever on their way in, and they'd be somehow, well, did you really understand with fractions? And then, of course, one would, yes, I did. Okay, well, because I did too. It's the strangest thing. But then they may be sharing. They may say, well, then, do you know what you have to do to a fraction when you're adding? Maybe trying to question or stump each other, or maybe they're talking about it, or they may be, just challenging each other, I guess, not to belittle challenge, but challenge, like just to maybe see, do you really know how much I know? And well, I got that, so I don't know. So maybe they're talking about it, maybe they're, going deeper and deeper to see how much you get. Does that make sense?
So there's a lot of interaction between students around your content area. Yeah? Sure. Anything else that would be a desired state, how you wanted them to be?
They would probably be requesting more. Because I know there's some extra tricks or there's some things, but you can't just dump it all on them. And I know, and I am fully expecting and aware that my students can and will be smarter than me. I have no problems with that. So if I say something that I'm giving them or that they don't know doesn't mean that I'm smarter than all my students. But would be to, I'd try to say, well, do you understand? Are you okay with that concept? You good? And if they say yes, I say, well, do you want a little shortcut? Do you want an extra step, or is it too much for your brain? Is it an overload? And if they say, I want it, then I'll give it to them. So that may be a thing where they're saying, is that all? Or, it's kind of like more, give me another way. Where they want you to
challenge me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'd be asking for that learning, for that challenge.
Right, absolutely.
All right. What else? What else would they be doing that you haven't mentioned?
Well, they'd be discussing it. They'd be wanting a challenge. Some of it may be the work on their own. I know I may have led them, I may have given them this crutch of asking for help way too often. And maybe it's not that they need the help, maybe it's that they want to know how much I'll continue to do for them.
Wow.
If that makes sense. That may clearly be a stumbling block that I have gotten myself into and maybe trying to get out of now that we're discussing this. I don't know. But that may be maybe then asking for more work, or the work they're doing, maybe then they're asking each other if they run into a question, and that may tie into what we said. But then they have a question on, I don't really understand how to do this. So then normally, or at the moment, it would be, I don't understand this, maybe something like that. But
so defaulting to the easy way, just popping out.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Billy, as you describe this sounds like a different classroom culture than what you have. Is it, this desired state?
Sure. Yeah, that desired state would be a different classroom culture than the current. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So really, you're talking about changing the culture of your classroom.
Okay. I haven't thought of it that way.
I'm just asking. What do you think? Is that possible?
Is it possible to change the classroom culture?
No. Is it possible that that's what you're seeking here?
From what you've described, you asked me some things that I'd like to see in the classroom. And if I saw those, would I be happy? I would be ecstatic.
Okay.
So that would be a classroom culture then, I would assume. Because if I'm not there teaching or telling them, here's what we're working on, or here's what the objective is, then probably the things we mentioned won't be taking place.
Okay.
So then, yes. Then in a classroom culture, to me it sounds different, but we've just gone over it, and I don't think it's different.
Okay.
So if we could get that classroom culture, then it would have changed, or it would change this learning situation, sure.
Okay, so is that something you want?
Is that something I want? It's something I crave.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to ask you a silly question.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I wanted the highest level, what would it be for you right now?
Okay, I'm sorry to throw a question out.
That's okay.
At you. I mean, what I want, desire most is them to be successful.
So you want this at a 10 level?
So if that equates to their success, then you are absolutely right. I want them to be successful and self-functioning.
Okay.
And like you said, I mean, solving their own problems or learning how to. So then, sure, it would be 9 to 10.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Billy, how much of your energy do you think this is going to require to change it from the current state to that desired state? How much energy do you think?
Just because of ignorance, I'm going to say, you want like in a percentage or like how many minutes or what do you mean? Like,
you think it's going to take a lot of your energy, some of your energy?
It'll take a decent amount. I mean, it's not going to, there's not an easy way of getting this. I think there may be an easier way than what I would think or what I'm doing, obviously, but.
Well, you're obviously already spending a lot of energy.
Yes, okay, sure. So that's a good, I'm glad you said that. So now then let's say energy in addition to, it would take a lot. If I could shift the energy, then that would be, I mean, I'm saying that, thinking that would be great, but you're wanting to know how much energy do I think would be involved? No more than the energy I'm putting in now. I don't know if that's measurable to what you're asking.
Okay. I'm hearing some real dynamic talk here. Changing the culture, shifting energy. These are exciting words.
Okay.
Are you feeling that excitement?
I am. I'm feeling, I think what you'd say, like, that the goal is attainable. Does that make sense?
Well, speaking of that, what is the goal?
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't know, this isn't measurable, because I'm sure we want to know how we're going to measure.
Just talk about what you want.
I mean, the goal, like I said, I want them, I'll tell them this often. If they have a problem or a situation, again, I may go in and answer it instead of, but I want them to know, well, I want you to be a problem solver, all right? Like, you have a solution, not a problem. I mean, it's okay to have problems, but I mean, like, create a solution. Or so if they'll say, well, I don't have a pencil, or okay, what do you think you ought to do about that? How can we, well, I can get a pencil. Okay, well, let's try that. Well, I can get a paper. Okay, well, let's try that. So, like, I want them to, and I'll show them, but then I'll tell them again, if I teach you how to, if I give you a fish, then you only, that whole thing, like, you can eat, but you have a meal, but I want you to be able to do it on your own. So I mean that, if they can be self-functioning or self-managing, if that makes sense, like I've got a problem, let me solve it. So I don't know if that's answering your questions.
Okay, so Billy, just so I understand, what you want from this coaching that we're doing now is to come up with some solutions to give them a different culture in the classroom, to give them more energy for the learning, and to get them to be their own problem solvers.
Sure, sure, which then obviously will equate to, I mean, if someone who is being left in a lesson or in a area, they may feel I'm behind. Well, if they're now problem solvers, if they are, well, this is an exciting environment, this is an exciting classroom culture, I enjoy this, even though we're doing something that's challenging, you're right, and making that challenge equally challenged to all the levels of learners. Right. You're right, absolutely.
Guess what?
What's that?
I believe in you.
Okay.
I believe you're up to this challenge.
Okay, thank you.
So knowing that this is what you want, be the problem solver.
Okay.
What can you do to create that culture in your classroom?
All right. You stopped me because you want me to be what I'm wanting for my students. That's good. All right. So, say this again.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do to create that culture, that excitement, that energy that we focused on, that dream state that we talked about?
I guess I would maybe try and start with finding out something that they enjoy doing, or maybe even something that they're good at.
Okay.
Now, from the way you kind of got me, lead me around, the way you coached me, you didn't get me, you coached me, it was good. About coaching, about how would you, get that, or what, about that you did, is maybe I could coach them to maybe just figuring out some things that they were good at.
Okay.
Or that they enjoyed doing, so on and so forth. Then once I had that, then maybe try and apply any lesson or subject or thing that I'm bringing to them, maybe to that aspect.
Okay. So
that
finding
may
their
be
interest.
Something, sure.
What else could you do?
Finding an interest. Find out some things that find some successes then, I guess, along the same kind of lines as something that they've done before, that they do, that they feel they're good at. Okay, maybe goals.
Say more about goals.
I don't do this enough, and I'd like to, but I try and have them maybe once a week, or sometime get something with them and say, hey, what would you like to, what maybe grade would you like to get for the 6 weeks? What would you like to be doing? I don't do it enough, so I guess I wouldn't be meeting my own goal. But if I could maybe do that, maybe if I had goals for them, if we could have them say, what would you like to get done? I know that you're at this level. I know you've said you're frustrated in area A, B, C, or I know that we have a struggle. And again, if we're tying it to the classroom environment, which it does, clearly, then say, I've noticed that, how do you feel you do, what do you feel you contribute to the classroom environment?
Billy, you've thought of a lot of things this afternoon to do for that class.
Thank you.
Lay it out for both of us so we can examine it together. What would you say we've thought of, or you've thought of?
Well, I've come up with that what I thought was maybe a behavior or even a learning, I don't want to say environment, like specific with the content, isn't really, it's classroom environment. So if we can get that, that it's attainable, okay, that I can do it, maybe just redirect some of the energy into kind of like get that first, maybe the cart, we summarized, maybe kind of get that first, like not to get the cart before the horse, you know what I mean? Kind of like establish that. So then maybe some team building things, some goals, establishing what they do good or feel successful at or confident. Then we can present it in that area. So if they're confident with it, if they're good with it, then now they can get it, even if it's a subject they don't know. And then I guess we've talked about, coming away with really ultimately, I want them to solve problems. You know what I mean? Like to be a problem. So, kind of empower them. So.
Sounds like empowerment.
Okay, yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
It's a strong word.
It is.
Yeah. So, Billy, knowing that you want to empower them, what are you taking away from this conversation this afternoon that's going to make it crucial to your success?
One is, I guess then ultimately is the bottom line that I hadn't thought would be a classroom culture. So kind of like if you get that, these other things fall in place, if that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it that way. To see it that way is big because clearly it affects it.
Okay.
So what I had thought before might not have been a problem. I don't have a problem with my classroom environment. But yet, if we can get the classroom environment that certain way, then obviously that affects the learning and so on and so forth. So I think what I'm going to take from here is to try and, I don't know, because there's a lot. With goals and empower, but to maybe, how about this? This might summarize it all. To make the classroom environment an environment of empowerment.
Whoa.
Does that make sense?
Whoa. It makes bumper sticker sense. I think it's fabulous. All right, so as your coach, what do you want me to do? What's my role in this?
Somehow just a checkup. Maybe if it's I don't even like it so much, I'm gonna get back with you, because that leaves it in me. I kind of like to know the pressure's on, sort of like, I'm gonna check with you in whatever you think's best, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and see what your plan is now, or how your plan has worked. Kind of like we've got some first steps now, or some stages, kind of like let's check up on that, or let's see, okay, how's it going? What do we want to, what's good, what's bad? Let's learn from both, if that makes sense, kind of
makes absolute sense.
Keep it rolling.
So what's the time frame? When do you want me to check back with you?
I need more than a week. That's a lot of stuff. Should we say 2? 2 weeks? Let's say 2 weeks, yeah, because it'll be closer up front, but it'll be further apart down the road, because 2 weeks, that'll give me a chance. We'll get some of that plan, kind of get that, and then maybe 4 weeks after that, see how it's working, and then 6, 8, kind of like that, something like that, maybe.
I'm gonna check with you by email. How does that sound?
perfect.
I'll see you on the
Beautiful.
email then.
Thank you
Great
very
job
much for
today.
your help.
Hard work.
Thank you very much.